Yeah. Okay. So we're still having some people trickling in.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I guess we're gonna start off with some introductions.
Yeah.
I'll start first, and then we'll just go Catherine, Anjali, and Steven.
Yeah. I have a few
Um,
slides to show really quick
oh yeah,
first.
right, yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead, just go
Yeah,
start.
yeah. Yeah, no, you're no
Yeah.
worries. We're all like totally chill here. Yeah. And so yeah, welcome everyone. If you're new to Design Buddies, we are a large Discord community aimed to connect and support designers from all backgrounds. So no matter what your experience is and what design discipline you are, we have a lot of content for y'all as well. We host a lot of events, share a lot of resources, design challenges, and really fun content. And the friendly moderators also drop some links in the chat if you want to connect with us. And just a couple of house rules. Events are recorded, and so if at any point you have to study for finals or anything, we're all live streaming on YouTube, so you can watch there as well. If you don't wish to be part of the recording, they're also live streaming on YouTube, where you can watch there too. Feel free to engage in the chat. We encourage buddies to connect with each other as well, talk amongst each other in the chat, but also please keep all promotional links like a LinkedIn on networking sheet, but you're welcome to connect with each other on networking sheet, like send each other a personalized invite on LinkedIn, saying that y'all met at this event. You're welcome to do so as well. We also have a Slido. Emma prepared a lot of questions beforehand, but if you have any burning questions for our speakers, we have the Slido where you can submit and upvote your own questions. We also have Zoom backgrounds you can do. You can use for yourself, turn on your camera, join us on stage if you wish. And also, if something resonates with you, feel free to share on social media, tag Design Buddies, tag all of our panelists and speakers if you wish as well. And yeah, we also like to take group selfies towards the end. So you can download the background if you want to be in it and just have fun, be respectful. And with that, I'll hand it over to Emma.
Hi everyone. I am Emma, and I am a first-year grad student at the University of Michigan School of Information. It is a UX and data science track, but I am specializing in UX and virtual reality design. So I guess I kind of found my way here. I guess like growing up, I've always been pretty creative, but I didn't want to be a starving artist. I kind of like ignored my more creative pursuit and was actually going to go into law. So I did some accounting and auditing at a law firm before this, but then I hated it. So then I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I finally paid attention to the more creative side of me. So then I saw that HCI was a graduate degree. And a year and a half later, here I am. KP?
Hello, everybody. My name is Catherine, or you can call me KP. I am a second-year graduate student at the University of Michigan, along with Emma. I'm currently on the UX track. I'm specializing in UX design. Beforehand, I'm a complete career transition. So, a 180. I was a child care worker for a psychiatric hospital and also juvenile probation officer before I started the program. So very much open to talk about the career transition and how it's been going with someone with no background in UX at all.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anjali. I'm currently a UX researcher at Chewy. I'm based in Boston, Massachusetts, and I recently graduated from Georgia Tech's Human Computer Interaction program in 2021. My background is I majored in computer science in my undergrad at UMass Amherst, and I sort of fell into HCI. I was taking some psychology classes. I was taking basically a lot of classes outside of CS, and I discovered I really like the human behavior aspects and wanted to somehow apply technology to solve problems, to kind of be more humane. And I found HCI through that way. And I really just wanted to like deepen my knowledge of this field. So I actually applied to grad school straight out of my undergrad. So happy to talk about that transition. I had no prior UX experience before getting into grad school as well. So yeah, it's been a really good 2 years at Georgia Tech, and I'm really happy with my job as a UX researcher. So happy to talk about UX research, that transition from undergrad to grad school as well.
Hi, I'm Steven. I'm a product designer at Microsoft. Before that, I had graduated recently in 2020. I'm from University of Washington's Human-Centered Design and Engineering graduate program. My, I guess, UX journey started just growing up. I always really liked design. It was something that I would always do, maybe more graphical. But then as I got older, I experienced my own encounters with like mental illness in my adolescence. And so I kind of always was really passionate about that. And so I entered undergrad wanting to do adolescent like therapy or something of that sort. And then through my journey there, I met some awesome professors who kind of guided me more towards, I guess, more research cognitive psychology. But in doing so, I noticed that there was a connection that could occur between graphic design and my cognitive psychology research background into kind of what is human factors in psychology, but is kind of tantamount to UX design and UX research. And so I did my senior research for human factors, got that published, and then I couldn't get a job after that with just a psych degree. So I did unpaid research at the University of Oregon and kind of found a way to beef up my portfolio to get into grad school. And here I am today. So it's worked out, but I'd love to talk about my journey because it's maybe not a 180, but maybe connecting different things that could be connected to, differentiate myself and have a more unique perspective.
Yeah. So again, I think Rex in the chat added the questions for upvote. So we have a few questions, but definitely if you have something that you want to ask, just send it in there and we'll prioritize those questions. Otherwise, I think at least when I was applying or considering grad school, I was either going to go to grad school or boot camp route. And I think a lot of people here, they're kind of, is grad school financially worth it? And what was the decision-making process that we went through, deciding between boot camp versus self-taught versus grad school? So I think, would you like to start us off with that, your experience and your thought process, Stephen, on that?
Sorry, could you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, what was your thought process when you're kind of deciding between your options of boot camp, grad school, or like self-teaching yourself?
Okay. Yeah, for me, it was that I knew that my background at that point in time was a lot more research focused. And while I did have some education in design, it was more graphic design and as a minor. And so I knew that one good option, not the good option necessarily, but one good option would be to kind of refine my understanding in that realm from people, I guess, who have expertise and knowledge than I. And just by putting myself in that space, I could, potentially have more doors to open, so to speak. But I think at the time I was maybe a little irrationally so hyper-focused on graduate school because I had pivoted from originally wanting to get my PsyD and pursuing psychology further. And so that was kind of where I was coming from. And I think that might have been what influenced my kind of expectation that grad school is required. So.
Yeah, I think, do you have anything to add for that, KP? I think we spoke earlier about it.
Just really quick, I guess for me, like I said, being a career transition and like literally a 180 doing health and human services, for me, I chose grad school because I felt like it was just more structured for me and it had a lot more discipline, even though it ended up being all online anyway. But that was just my thought process. Like, no one is better than the other, I don't think. But for me, it was just more so the structure aspect.
Right. Yeah, I think that was what I was thinking too, where if I'm getting to grad school, I knew this is what I wanted to do. So I guess backup was a boot camp. But I definitely wanted structure. So I kudos to people who are able to self-teach themselves, honestly. So I think we did have a first question in the poll. Awesome. So the question is, why do you think you were admitted to your UX grad program? And how would you distinguish yourself from other candidates? Anjali, do you want to start off with that?
Sorry, what was the question? Was why were you admitted to your chosen?
Yeah, let me copy and paste it. So the question is, why do you think you were admitted into your UX graduate program, and what made you stand out, you think?
Yeah, for me, so I got into Georgia Tech, and for me, I had really clear criteria why I wanted to go to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech was my top choice, so I was really lucky to get in. But for me, they had a very specific kind of structure. Like if you go to the HCI program, you can kind of, it's very broad. And I did my research about the program, and in my statement of purpose, I made it very clear, like, hey, I know you offer like this internship. I know you offer this like research center. I know these are certain labs that you have. I've looked into these professors' research. It aligns with my interest. For me, I really wanted to like do ed tech or mental health research. So I looked up professors and I looked up labs in that area at Georgia Tech. And I basically had like a checklist of like, these are opportunities that you offer. And if I get the chance to be a part of these opportunities, this is how I see my career growing in UX. So I researched like basically every school that I applied to, and I made sure I had a very clear reason for like going to, any of the schools that I applied to. Kind of in the statement of purpose, you really want to like make it seem like this is your number one school. You want to like give everything you have to be in that school, even though you're like applying to a couple other schools, but yeah, there were like, there's obviously a bunch of different criteria to like get into grad school, right? You need your statement of purpose, letters of rec. When I was applying, we had to take the GRE. I don't know if they like waived that. They probably waived it, but yeah, it's really, I'd say the most important piece is like the statement of purpose, and then maybe your portfolio. But like if you have a really clear reason why you want to go to the school, and if you do like your due diligence in researching the school and demonstrating that those opportunities are basically like, then it makes sense, like this is the next step in like your career or your academic journey that makes sense for you. Like I think a school will resonate with like the admissions board at the school, because you have very clear reasons of like wanting to go there. So I think I just demonstrated that in my application, and I got admitted. So
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I feel like that sounds like the PhD route. I was considering either law school or a PhD in clinical psychology. And so I was like interviewing with a lot of PhD researchers, and that's how you get the PhD route. So it sounds like that's what you're doing. You're looking at professors' research, right? Or in their opportunities.
Yeah. So for me, I didn't want to do a PhD because I was just kind of out of 4 years of undergrad, and I was like, this seems like a lot more school. Yeah. So I sort of also was leaning towards grad programs that had some sort of like academic research, because so this also ties into like funding. You can work as a research assistant, you get some of your tuition waived or something like that. So I was also like really looking for schools that had some opportunity for funding, and Georgia Tech kind of made that clear. Like most of the students will get some sort of research or teaching assistantship. So it was like that perfect balance for me. Like I could still participate in academic research, but I don't have to go the PhD route. And people who graduate from Georgia Tech can also go like work, in the industry after. So it was kind of that like perfect middle ground that I was looking for. And I was really prioritizing programs that kind of let me do that. So yeah.
Right. So I guess if you were a designer, what advice would you have for someone who wasn't necessarily interested in the research aspect?
Does someone else want to take this, or should I take it?
I can jump in. I don't know why actually I got in. I did a few things that could be why. I did my own like passion project to kind of learn the UX process, and that's more the design side of things because I hadn't got into like the iteration and research side of it. And I actually have a theory that I got in because of my research background and saw me as somebody who would become a UX researcher and had some sub-design knowledge. So I think for me, it was a little bit of how I differentiated myself and then leveraged the information, or like not information, but knowledge and, you know, things that I had for me already, because it still applies. I think UX design is an umbrella and you can really merge almost anything with it. And so I got in, I think, through that, and then was able to use that experience to kind of slide over to design where I really wanted to be. So.
Yeah, I just want to add something to what Steven said. I think that trying to leverage your existing background and sort of try to apply it, like at least show that you're interested in UX. Because also when I was applying to grad school, I didn't have like a formal design background, and I didn't know what UX research was until like my first or second semester of grad school. So I did also like some like passion projects. I think there was this like daily UI challenge. I was like, okay, this looks interesting, like learning, like trying to just apply something I know towards graphic design or UX design. Just, you know, there are definitely like resources out there. I tried to like make my own portfolio as well to show like I'm taking my CS background and sort of trying to apply it to design. So just kind of making the most of what you have and showing that you have some like affinity towards UX research. Because also the reason why I don't want to speak for anyone else, but the reason why I applied to like grad school is because I wanted to deepen and like formalize my knowledge of HCI because I don't have any experience. So yeah, I think the admissions committees knows you don't have, you know, you're not coming in with this extensive knowledge of HCI and UX and you're going there to learn. So, but just showing some sort of like affinity or some like reason for like why you want to study it is really important. So yeah.
Actually, and to add on that, I actually have heard since actually through experiences that I was able to get in grad school through lectures and events that a lot of the time people notice when you're using a project from school because they see a lot of them. And so it goes a lot farther to do something, even if it's not as good, but something that you did on your own, something that shows that you care, passion, and initiative behind it. And it also shows that you're willing to fail and show like, you know, some level of humility in your design that, you know, I did this totally on my own, unprompted. I found a space that I wanted to address that had a need. And I think that almost speaks more than doing the same, you know, chair project or something that you may have done in graphic design.
Yeah, and I will say, I think like I also had a research background, but I will like for all of you who didn't have research backgrounds, I have a really good friend here. She had a marketing background, and no research, nothing like science or STEM related, but she was able to interview at a lot of the top grad programs because she knows how to tell a story very well from her marketing experience, and she also loves baking. So she did a really creative story where she connected the chemistry and the baking, everything that goes into baking experience and how that's related to design thinking. So yeah, she got interviews and accepted into CMU, Georgia Tech, and all those other schools, and did not have any traditional research or tech background. So what they're looking for is so right, this field is very, very interdisciplinary. So you'll see people like all over the place in these degrees. But the commonality is how do you integrate design thinking based off your past experience.
And everybody pretty much covered everything, but I do just want to add something. We put a lot of emphasis on like the personal statements, and I want to just remind everybody to make sure you put some personality in it and it's not as scripted, because that matters too. Like they want to see your personality shown throughout your personal statement. I think that's another reason why I got accepted. And also, you usually have to do prompts as well. It's not just a personal statement that asks you like, you know, different little prompts, just making sure that you're showing your personality and like your passion through those too.
Yeah, I think we have two questions in the polls that are kind of similar, related together. And it's along the idea of going to grad school full time versus part time. And is it possible to work while going to grad school? I think all our programs are full time. So what are your thoughts on this, guys? KP, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so I don't know about part-time. I'm full-time. I know with part-time it can tend to take like a little bit longer because certain classes are only offered on certain terms, vice versa. But I can't really speak on that too much. But my first year of grad school, I did not work. I just really wanted to focus on classes and just get like my footing in. And that went well. So my second semester, I decided to pick up a job, which I'm currently doing now. And it is basically like taking on another class. It depends on how demanding your job is. I just so luckily happen to work for the university. So they're very understanding of like, my assignments and, things that I have to do. But I will say it's not easy. At least it has not been for me. It's been kind of tough trying to balance work and taking a full course of classes as well. So if you don't have to, I wouldn't. But if it's something you have to do, then absolutely. I mean, it's doable.
Anjali?
Yeah, like Catherine, I can't really speak for part-time, like going to grad school. I know also when I was applying, I'm pretty sure all the programs I applied to were full-time programs as well. And when it comes to like working like in the program at Georgia Tech, we did have like graduate like jobs, like working as a teaching assistant, working as a research assistant. So in my first year, I worked as a teaching assistant for 2 classes. And it is sort of like another class as well. Just like did the standard like grade assignments, grade quizzes, tests, led discussion sections, whatever. And yeah, it is a lot, but it is, I think the financial benefit, as I said, I was really prioritizing a school that gave me some funding. So it was definitely encouraged, to like work in one of these roles. And I'm not an international student as well, but I do know there were some additional working restrictions placed on international students. Like, I don't know if you could have actually done like a part-time job off campus if you were an international student. So if there are any international students, keep that in mind, check in with your program to see like what you can and can't do for work. I know this is also not my personal experience, but I do know some people in my program did a co-op instead of like a summer internship. I think there are a lot of like local companies in Atlanta. So some of them just worked a semester and then kind of restructured their whole like graduating cycle. But I did like on-campus jobs during my semesters, and then in the summer between my first and second year, I did an internship, like a lot of people in my program. So yeah.
Did you have anything to add, Stephen, to that?
No, again, I was also full-time, so I have kind of no way of knowing. But I do know that in my program specifically, there were a lot of people who worked full-time in industry and in other roles. And they were able to make it work, but it did take a lot longer. And I could just tell based off of talking to them, there was a lot, of extra, to be working, and then, hustle your way to and have that much work more to do. But that's just from me.
Yeah, I will say it's definitely a privilege to I recognize the privilege to not to be able to do full-time grad school. But just from my experience, it's hard, guys. I feel like I'm working 90 hours a week for 100. It's a lot. I love it, but it doesn't feel like work. I'm constantly like, I don't know, it's like great to be able to work, basically wake up this is what I'm working towards. I love everything I do, and I love like my projects and everything. But I'm like learning design thinking, prototyping, Unity, a bunch of like tools outside of Figma that I've never touched before, and client meetings, projects and stuff. So it's like, it's a lot. And if you really, really want, it's a huge investment. So if you're going to put the financial investment in grad school, you need to see it as you're all in kind of thing. You can't just like, I don't know, like it, you owe it to yourself to put all your effort and all your time in, because again, it is a financial investment. So I would advise, if you have a way to fund it, I would figure out some way, save some money before you go to school, figure out some other funding options. But I would recommend doing full time too. If this is your serious thought, this is a career option, I don't do it. As I think that's another a perfect segue into how you get funding. I think there's this misconception that you have to be super wealthy to go to grad school. But if you're really, really smart about it, you can figure out ways to get funding. And I think a perfect way to start us off would be KP. Do you want to lead with that, KP?
You're talking about funding for grad school?
Yes.
Well, for me personally, my first year I did financial aid. I took out student loans. Like you said, it was worth the investment for me. I already had student loans. I already had to pay them back anyway, I felt. But then I would say going into my second semester, I did get a position where I did get tuition reimbursement, just as like a aid. And then this semester, I'm currently a graduate student assistant for the DEI office, which also gives tuition reimbursement. And I'll be ending off my semester with that as well. So I only had to take out a semester worth of loans, which was perfectly fine with me, very much worth the investment. And then I figured it out from there. If you could figure it out sooner, do so. It just took me a little time.
Yeah, Anjali.
Yeah, as I said, I came straight from undergrad to grad school. And, you know, a lot of people did tell me, maybe you should wait, maybe you should save some money. But I was kind of stubborn and I was like, I don't want to work. I don't want to like waste any time working in software engineering. I know there are like other paths out there that I really want to do. So that's why when it came to like looking for grad schools, it was really just like, okay, who has some sort of promise of funding. So when I got into Georgia Tech, it was like March or April, and the actual program started in August, I think. And I was cold emailing professors, basically being like, hey, I'm interested in your lab. Do you have any, like, do you take on students, et cetera, et cetera. And I was lucky enough, to line up a teaching assistant position by the time I started, which was really nice because as a TA, you get your tuition waived, and I was out of state. So that was great. And you do get a little stipend as if you work in like a graduate researcher, graduate teaching position, but it is a small stipend. It didn't cover my rent in Atlanta, which was wild. But, so I did have to take out a little bit of loans as well. But yeah, I managed to find teaching assistant positions my first year. And then my second year, also during that time, during my first year, I was doing unpaid research in a lab. And just to like really get that experience and to kind of like put my foot in the door. So if there was a paid research position that opened up in the lab, I have that history and I could be considered for it. And it worked out. My second year, I managed to transition from an unpaid to a paid research assistantship, which was great. I had a slightly larger stipend as a research assistant. So that was good. And yeah, and also during that time from my internship, I was able to use like the money I made from my internship to kind of pay for like a semester of grad school. So there are all these like ways that I kind of somehow made it work. I did graduate with a little bit of loans, but also I even when I was applying and researching schools, I looked at alumni from programs and I saw like kind of the careers they were at. I looked at, there are these really great resources about like state of UX design, state of UX research. You can see starting salaries in like different locations. And I just sort of knew like, okay, like financially, I will be able to pay off these loans if I'm able to like, be in a career like this. And for me, it was really like those learning opportunities that were more important. I didn't want to, like, as I said, waste any time. I didn't want to like kind of work in a job that I wasn't as passionate about when I knew I could like transition into something else. And yeah, I made it work. So yeah, there are all these different opportunities. My journey is, like unique to myself. And at Georgia Tech, people worked in all sorts of positions. In addition to being like research assistants and teaching assistants, there were other like on-campus jobs that were hourly as well. But yeah, it was definitely important to like have that upfront like disclaimer, like, hey, eventually you can get some sort of like position that does cover your tuition. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think with, at least I'm not sure what other schools are like, but at University of Michigan, I know that TSI, their entire tuition is waived. And then they also get $2,000 a month in stipend, which that's amazing. So it's actually quite generous. And I think if you take one advice from from this regarding finances, is as soon as you get accepted into your grad school program, reach out to professors. Like over the summer, even before you're officially a student. I know a lot of people, they got like TSI positions, research positions, TA, like teaching assistantship, because they didn't wait. They didn't wait until they stepped on campus. They apply and they reach out to professors, just cold called, email them a bunch of professors. So I know one person, he has I think a communications background. So he's GSI in a different, completely unrelated degree, but his entire tuition is paid. So just before you even step on campus, reach out to professors. Yeah, did you have anything to add, Stephen, to that?
No, other than it is very expensive to live near the University of Washington. So that is one con.
Yeah. So I think another question is related to recommendation letters. Someone had asked, do you have any advice on asking for recommendation letters when you are not close to any professors? I'm not sure if this is someone who has some work experience or is coming out of undergrad. What are your thoughts, guys?
I guess I can speak on that very briefly. So at the point when I applied for grad school, I had already graduated from undergrad like 6 years ago. So I definitely wasn't in communication with like any professors. But I did have work experiences. So I reached out to like old managers, old coworkers, things of that sort to write those recommendation letters for me. And as long as they're very strong and they speak to like, your character and your work ethic and, things like that, then it's perfectly fine. It doesn't necessarily have to be a professor. Just anybody that can speak for you, basically.
Right. Yeah, I think another really, really popular question now is kind of the decision-making process behind choosing interaction design programs as opposed to more art and design-oriented degrees. I'm going to post the question. Oh, okay. Grace already posted it. So did you guys have any thoughts on that? I only did HCI-specific programs.
I mean, I guess it really depends on what would benefit you the most. The program that I entered actually was more, I didn't realize it at the time, but more research based. And there was some design, but nothing, or not nothing. There were fewer courses than I would have expected at the level that I was expecting, because that's kind of what I was wanting to refine. And I did learn a lot, but it was a little bit more research based. It still worked for me based off of my skill set and how I was able to pivot it. But I do think paying close attention to what the programs kind of specialize in would benefit, probably more than the name, because then you have more relevant experience. I just kind of got lucky, if I'm being honest. I picked the right program for what I have. So
Yeah, I think Stephen really said it, but it was kind of frustrating applying and seeing all these different names. Like it was like HCI or like information science, or, you know, it was tucked into like a CS or an engineering program, or, you know, it was just like organized very differently. So each school really had something unique to offer. And that made it frustrating to apply, because I was like, why is it so hard to find like HCI programs? And there wasn't really a lot of consolidated lists that really broke down like what each school like focuses in or specializes in. For me personally, because I was only really coming from like a CS background and I had some psychology experience, but it wasn't like a lot of psychology experience, so I kind of wanted to explore that area more. I was looking at these larger or like these 2-year programs that had like a large variety of classes. Like for the schools I applied to, I tried looking on their website and seeing like what classes they offered. And for me, I was choosing between, I think, the University of Washington, Seattle, but the other program, I'd actually applied to the wrong program. I applied to the HCI because I didn't realize like there was.
They have like similar. It's within the same school. They both say design. I remember that.
Yeah, so that's also like another thing. The names were so confusing. I ended up just applying to the wrong school, so don't do that. But yeah, I was choosing between University of Washington Seattle, Carnegie Mellon's program, and Georgia Tech, and another reason to go to Carnegie Mellon's one, because I personally felt it was way too design focused, and I just wanted that room for exploration. I wanted that chance to have the internship, and you know, Georgia Tech, you know, had like kind of checked those boxes. There was like that research focus and the ability to have the internship, whereas other schools that I applied to didn't have that. So yeah, each is kind of like its own flavor of like HCI or like UX. So yeah.
Yeah,
actually,
I will. Oh, wait, sorry, Stephen, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add, this one's a little, maybe not the most, you probably shouldn't take it the most seriously, but something that I actually considered, and it worked out a little bit, but I actually only applied to University of Washington. I actually got rejected 2 times, but I only applied there. And the reason being is that it was the only good program on the West Coast. And for me and my mental health, I grew up in Texas. I knew that I wanted to stay on the West Coast, and I knew that I would operate best in that environment. And so if I didn't get in, I would just go about it in a different way, because I felt like the context that I was in would be more helpful for me in terms of how I operate going forward. So that was just a personal thing.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's kind of like a reminder that this is a 2-year life commitment. It's not like a shorter duration. So I love like factoring in what we want for our lifestyles for 2 years. I didn't think about that as I'm in Michigan. It's snowing, but I think to discuss kind of like the pros and cons of deciding between the schools, what I really love about we're coming from an information perspective, University of Michigan, and I guess when I came in, I thought, okay, yes, UX design all the way. But because the school is so huge and we have the resources to kind of cover a huge like ground, I am now taking classes in virtual reality design, and I'm going to specialize in that. I did not think I would potentially be interested in that. I didn't even think that was an option. And I know other people who they thought they were going to do UX design, but then they end up wanting to pivot into product management. So that's why a school like University of Michigan, where it's not so UX design focused, you have the option to kind of play around and explore a little bit. So that is one thing to consider. a less specialized school. Because you don't exactly know what you want. You have this idea, this is what I want, but I don't know, it's like kind of like Anjali, I think we had talked about this earlier about that's the great thing about grad school is that it is a new opportunity for you to kind of explore who you are and what your interests are, in addition to design. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts, KP, about that?
No, I think you kind of hit it on the head. I don't have anything additional to say.
Awesome. Okay, I love this one question. It kind of, what were your expectations, guys, coming into grad school, and how are they? What was consistent with what you had expected versus what is not?
I can go first. So coming like straight from undergrad, I kind of expected like the work and that entire routine to kind of be a repeat of, you know, like how it is in undergrad. But personally, I felt like it was almost like a job, like being in grad school. Like, I don't know, I felt like I had way more responsibility and accountability for the things I was doing. As I mentioned, I was also like working as a TA and then eventually as in a lab as a research assistant. So I don't know, it also may be the location of, you know, my program. Like Georgia Tech is located right in Midtown Atlanta. So I was living in an apartment. You know, in my undergrad, I was like living in dorms, you know, I would eat on campus, but in grad school, it was more just kind of living in a city and then kind of commuting to like classes or like my job. So I kind of felt more like adult and responsible in a way. That being said, it was still a very much like a college time commitment. Like I was working late nights, I was working weekends, obviously, like you're in school, that's sort of expected. But I don't know, I just felt like the work I was doing was also more project based. Like I was taking classes that are less like, you know, tests or quizzes or things like that. So there was a lot more like collaboration, like meeting people, like meeting my teammates in the evening, working on projects, or just going from research building to classroom to whatever. So yeah, that's sort of, there are definitely like similarities to undergrad, but I just personally felt like the work I was doing was a little bit more fulfilling and I had more like accountability and control over you know, what I was taking and what I was like learning and stuff like that.
I would say for me, I didn't going in, I didn't have a huge like expectation. I was just like, all right, we're doing this. Let's see what it's about. Like I said, I've been out of school for about 6 years at that point. And it turned out to be even better than I could have imagined, honestly. The professors are completely, I don't know, it's way different from undergrad. Like the professors are so like accommodating and they're so nice and they treat you like real people.
What?
Yeah, right. What?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's like in other universities, but I'm kind of shocked. Not that my undergrad was awful or anything. It was wonderful, but they're really awesome. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, well, at least the professors at the School of Information have been like completely awesome and like accommodating. Like I said, I'm a career transition. I really didn't know much about UX besides the things I looked at YouTube and read and from the people I talked to. So like actually going in and actually doing the work and like seeing what it's really about for myself has been a great experience as well. I think maybe the most unexpected or like surprising thing, what I thought UX design is not what it is. It's a lot more research involved in it than I thought. I really thought it was really just design and it's not. So that was just kind of like a learning curve for me. Not that I still don't love it or anything. I still enjoy it, but just like those little things, I guess.
One thing I'll preface is that in general, it's always good, like Catherine said, to not have expectations because having high expectations and then them not being met usually leads to unhappiness. Like a little bit of cynicism. I went to a small private school, and so I had a very maybe different experience and then had a different expectation of what a big university would be like. And so going to UW, and again, no shade, like I wouldn't have the job that I have or be where I am without this program. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. For one, I thought there'd be a little bit more emphasis on design. And I think I also expected a little bit more rigidity and just a different academic feel, I guess. I don't know what I was really expecting, but from the classes, professors, and some of my peers. And that wasn't always reflected. It sometimes was. I had some amazing professors, and I had some professors that I didn't feel like my money and time were being maybe the best utilized. But maybe that was because it wasn't a good fit for me. And maybe that goes back to the program, maybe not being an exact, one-to-one to what I needed. But it was, again, like something that I couldn't have not done that and then gotten the job that I have now. But I think I was a little thrown off with some of like the biggest thing being my peers. There was a lot of diversity in age in the program, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I noticed that there was sometimes kind of this from some of my peers treatment of me being younger, that I didn't know what I was doing or that I wasn't qualified to be there, and that because they were in the industry and that they had been, putting in their due diligence, not saying that they weren't deserving to be there, but I think they sometimes maybe didn't feel the same way about me. And so that was something that I didn't really expect. I kind of expected everyone to have, equal respect. And maybe that was just my perspective and my, opinion. I don't know if it's because I wore hoodies or something, but I haven't experienced that in industry. So maybe that was unique to the people in the program. But that was something that kind of threw me off a little bit and maybe made me a little cynical. But again, I wouldn't have the position I'm at without the program. So.
Yeah, I love what it makes. I love the honesty there. But now you're wearing hoodies and in industry, so jokes on them. But yeah, I feel like to answer that question, I think for my undergrad, I kind of took what was given to me, right? People told me I should take these classes because this is what you should do when you're in this degree. But I didn't think that I really need to take a lot more initiative in terms of where I want my direction to go. I guess that's the difference between, right, when you're a graduate student and undergrad. Undergrad, you're still a kid, kind of like, I don't know, tell me what to do. But certain things where I love my program, but I feel like the program, if I were just to follow the status quo, it would make me be more of a UX consultant almost. But I really need to take more initiative. If I want to do VR design, I need to take more 3D modeling classes and stuff outside of UX consulting related courses. Or if I want to do more prototyping, I need to take more classes in the art school. So just advice in general, if you're in grad school, you will have your core requirements that you have to graduate with, but really think about what kind of designer do I want to be in the end, and are these classes helping me be that way? Don't just take classes because you're told to. So I didn't expect to require so much initiative on my end, but yeah. So I think another question that Stephen was kind of hinting at was what unique experiences did you have during grad school that when you're experienced, as you're going through it, you knew, okay, I knew that grad school was kind of the right decision for me, and I'm at the right place in my life to do this. You can copy and paste that question.
I think for me, what I truly didn't expect to happen during grad school, but happened was working like in like as a researcher in a lab and also publishing a paper with that lab. It was always that like one thing I sort of wanted to do, but I never really like had the means to in like undergrad. And, you know, when I was at Georgia Tech, I found a mental health lab that I really liked. And as I said, I was working as an unpaid researcher in that lab for my first year, just kind of partly because, you know, I really wanted to like kind of learn about that lab and be involved in the research. But, you know, I did also want to eventually get a paid research position if that was possible. But, you know, from when I joined that lab, like in my first semester, I kind of stuck with the same groups, stuck on the same project. And I really got to like, you know, see that project out, and we got to publish it at CHI, which is like the human, I think it's the Conference of Human Computer Interaction, which is like a conference I really admire. So that was like a really amazing opportunity for me. And there are some similarities between like academic research and UX research in terms of like kind of like some of the methods are pretty similar, but really just kind of like documenting like your results, documenting your process. I think being working on that research project helped me be a better UX researcher, and also just like get to meet a lot more people in the research space. But that was truly unexpected. When I was entering grad school, I didn't think that was an opportunity I was gonna have, but it happened. So I'm really grateful for that happening.
Yeah, I think, oh, sorry, Steven, go ahead.
No, you're good. You started.
You go. I'm the host, you go.
Okay, well, thank you. I apologize. So I got thrown off. Actually, in terms of unique experiences, I think some of the most unique experiences and some of the things that helped me the most in grad school was meeting what I learned in psychology to be more knowledgeable others, or people who have relevant skill sets or experiences that you can learn from. And not that they have the answers, because everyone has their own different lived experiences and perspectives, but just hearing what they have to say and things that they find important and what they've learned, and trying to apply that to yourself and seeing what works. Because there are two notable things. I remember the first career fair I went to, because it was a 2-year program. There was a Google employee at one of the booths who actually had graduated from the program. And I was showing him my resume and talking about how I wanted to be a UX designer. And he looked at it and he's like, this is amazing. And honestly, you could be a UX researcher right now, but I can tell by how you've designed this and all these other things that you're telling me now that really where your passion is design. And I don't think you're far off, but it will require a lot of work. And like, you can do it, but you have to be dedicated to do this. And I could see that. And what that told me, because at the time I was having a lot of imposter syndrome. I was like, what am I doing here? Some of these people aren't in the industry. Like, do I even know what I want to do? Like, obviously everyone's telling me to do research, but you know, I want to do design, and I think I can, but I'm not sure. And so having that reassurance from somebody who had kind of been there, and then also has that industry knowledge to kind of more concretely be like, no, you're good. Like, you're there. It just, you know, you just have to keep running that marathon. And then the same thing with just some of the people that I met in the program who were in industry, were very supportive in kind of maybe some horror story scenarios with group projects. But kind of them kind of speaking to me and kind of mentoring me unofficially, you know, I just learned a lot. And, you know, I think that was the most helpful thing for me. It was just learning from other people. So.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's something that people don't talk about with grad school. They're thinking about the more professional aspects of building portfolio. But I think I've learned more, I wouldn't say more actually, like very equally in parts, as much about myself and how I am a leader, like how I can improve, or my weak points are as a person. But obviously, like as a designer, you're not just learning how to prototype in Figma, right? You need to have really advanced soft skills, whatever that means, right? So how you relate to people, very, very different from you, very diverse backgrounds, very diverse work styles, that directly translates to how good a designer you are. I'm not sure if anyone wants to speak to like the experiences they've had with their peers and how that kind of shaped them as a designer or a researcher, Anjali.
I think it just helps with like empathy and relating to people like in industry or, you know, whatever you choose to do after grad school. Cause I think with me, I was able to, I mean, I also did design work for like some projects. I took design classes. And I think Catherine was saying this, like your expectations of design are pretty different. Like once you actually kind of learn more about like UX design or UX research, it's kind of different from what you expect. So I think having that background, having that knowledge of what it's sort of like to be a designer, and then now in my role as a UX researcher, I collaborate with like PMs, I collaborate with designers daily. So having that knowledge of kind of what they do, it helps me as a researcher, like when I'm presenting my results or when I'm sharing like how I plan my studies and stuff, I sort of work with them to figure out like, okay, these are the tasks that we're gonna test, you know, how can the designs and research support each other? I think it just helps so much when you have understanding of, you know, what other people are doing in their jobs or, you know, what their needs are, just to relate to them. So yeah, collaboration is so important. And you know, I think just learning from your peers, like I think that's the beauty of grad school. You meet people, you know, I think everyone on this call has such a unique background, and, you know, we all end up in the same place, you know, the same, or, you know, if you go into school, you end up with so many different people, you know, you're all there at the same time, and everyone has so much to offer each other, you know, regardless of your age, regardless of your background or whatever. So yeah, for me personally, I've learned from so many of my peers. There were a group of other UX researchers at Georgia Tech, and we were all just trying to figure it out. So I am really grateful to that community. Like we helped each other interview, we helped each other like, learn about different companies. We just shared our backgrounds, previous experience with research. So yeah, just having that network is so important. Yeah, just that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to end it, Anjali. It is 9 o'clock. Grace, you want to take the lead with the pictures?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you so much. This is super insightful. I know this is something I definitely needed to hear if this was me in 2018, considering what to do with my life after graduating in 2019. So yeah, I appreciate it. If any of our buddies, we're gonna do a group photo, and you're welcome to turn on your camera. I'm going to turn on to gallery view. And yeah, I'll count down if you want to turn your camera, be in our wonderful group photo. And I will do a static one first and then wait for our Instagram story. And if you don't wish to turn on your camera, you can react, having emojis there. So that is also one way you can be in our photo as well. And I'll count down 10 seconds. I'm going to unpin so we can see everyone as well. And then I'll count down. So yeah, we remove pin, but yeah, all right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Oh, by the way, feel free to like bring any object you want. I have Fluffle with me, our friendly bunny mascot. 3, 2, 1, react. Say Fluffle or say grad school. All right, we're gonna do a wave now. I usually do a couple and pick the one where everybody looks the best in. Yeah. All right. Ready, set, wave. Oops, sorry.
I want to get a picture.
All right. Yeah, feel free to get a picture or wave. Hello, buddies. We are at How to Make Your UX Grad School Application Stand Out with our buddies Emma, Anjali, Steven, and KP. Thank you all so much for coming, and check the recording on our YouTube channel. Cool. So this is going to be our Instagram story at Design Buddies. But yeah, that concludes our event. for our speakers, if I know it's getting late for some of y'all, if you want to stay for a quick like 5-minute debrief, that would be great. If not, thank you everyone for coming. And we have one more event for this year. It's going to be a fun Design Your Avatar social with a nice Figma template made by one of our admins, Nabil. This will be this Saturday, so that's what we got going on by the end of this year. With that, I'll stop streaming on YouTube.